The last week of September, we drove about 2 hours north of Stockholm to an area known as Roslagen. And this time of year here is my absolute favorite. It's harvest season. I've spent the majority of our days gathering all kinds of things from the wild, from nettle fibers and roots for basket making, seaweeds and mushrooms, to all kinds of berries like rowan, juniper, elder, hawthorn. But these things could be found almost anywhere in Sweden. So why did we come to this place? Well, there is something I'm hoping to find here, which is Sea Buckthorn, or havtorn as we say in Swedish. It's known to still grow wild in this area, but as usual, it wasn't so easy to find it. It had been raining for days, but my son Axel was just determined to eat his breakfast outside. So it's a bit gray and wet, but a couple of hours later, the light just broke through. Nature is so sensual this time of year. The forests are full of mushrooms and moss, and the air smells of fermentation and bonfire. And of course the colors. God, we were all kind of getting restless to just get out and explore the area a bit, so we set off for our first walk.
My love, don't worry about the cold just yet. The trees haven't started to shed. Just feel the summer sun as it warms our bed. And oh my love, the seasons come and they go, but I hope you know that I won't.
This day's search for sea buckthorn ended quite abruptly when my son fell into the water with all of his clothes and shoes on. And I knew deep down we were not in the right area for sea buckthorn. However, we did find so many wild rosehips or wild rose plants growing with the rosehips perfectly ready for harvesting right now. And I just couldn't resist. I knew that the day for sea buckthorn was not coming today, so I filled up my basket with rosehips. These babies are just incredible, not only for the skin, but for the body as well. So I spent the rest of the day processing rosehips, which involves cleaning and drying, removing all of those itchy hairs, but without removing the seeds, because the seeds actually contain a ton of properties that I want infused into the final skincare product. But I also foraged us some extra rosehips. So soon, maybe tonight for dinner, maybe for breakfast in the morning, I'm not sure, there will be nyponsoppa, or rosehip soup. I don't know if you're familiar with this Swedish delicacy, but it's actually a very simple thing. It's basically just cooked rosehip puree thinned down with water and a little bit of sugar. But I love it. It's super nice for breakfast or dessert. Rosehips are packed full of vitamins and minerals, antioxidants, bioflavonoids, and all kinds of those powerful nutrients we hear about. So I feel really grateful that we can just go outside and get these. They're just there. They're free. They're a gift from nature. So that's the story of the rosehips, which was really exciting, but the search for sea buckthorn continued into the next day. And I knew we needed to get closer to the coast, where the soil is sandy and salty. And maybe now you're starting to wonder, what is the big deal about the sea buckthorn she's looking for? Well, that's a good question. It's like one of our super berries here in the far north, Nutritionally, sea buckthorn is just astounding. So rich in beneficial plant compounds, some that are very rare in the plant world. It's also just kind of exotic. It almost looks Mediterranean with its silvery colored leaves and its vivid orange berries. And it's actually one of the oldest plants in our natural system. Just after the last ice age, as the ice sheets were receding, sea buckthorn began to establish itself on the land. And back then, it grew everywhere. But as time went on, it got harder for sea buckthorn to compete with the other plants. So these days, we only find it on our outermost shores. And not so many of the shores, sadly. And yet, here I am looking for it, just scouring the landscape, going from shore to shore, taking my kids from beach to beach, just looking everywhere for the sea buckthorn. And at this point, my littlest one is tired and fussy. He wants to sleep. Thankfully, I have my partner with me here today, so they go for a walk so the baby can nap while my son and I continue the search. I just felt like we were so close. In fact, just before my partner and the baby left for a walk, I sat down to feed the baby on this random bench, and I was feeding him, and I looked beside me, and lo and behold, there was a giant sea buckthorn plant, but without any berries on it.
You're right at the edge.
We would go on to find a lot of sea buckthorn bushes without any berries on them. But here we found something really cool, one of my favorite things, juniper berries. Oh, I just love these. I love the way they smell and taste. Oh, God.
What do we do here now?
What do you think we should do here?
Maybe rock?
This wild coast is so rich with life. I wish I could send you the smells and all of the senses that I'm taking in right now. It's just almost overwhelming. Just out there in the blue yonder, if you started swimming in the sea, you would eventually come to Finland. And actually, this area is protected because it's very important for the migratory birds, especially the smaller birds that need to make that long journey from Finland all the way to Sweden. It's also protected here because the forest contains some plants that are red listed. They don't grow in forests anymore because they only can survive when the conditions of an old growth forest are still intact. As you probably know, old growth forests are becoming very rare.
Isn't it kind of weird? We have blueberries in September.
Yeah, try one.
Let me see it. It's too close. You try it.
Oh.
They're still here. That's crazy.
After a stop for wild blueberries, because who can resist that, especially in October, we continued, and I knew we were getting so close. We were seeing sea buckthorn plants everywhere now, but without any berries. And then I saw something really close to the coast, and there was all this wild underbrush in the way, so I couldn't get to them. So I had to machete my way through. But look at this. Sea buckthorn plants full of berries. We stayed by the sea until the light was pretty much drained from the sky, and then it was back to our little place in the middle of the forest where the work of processing sea buckthorn began. They're not really the easiest berries to harvest. At this time of year, the berries are really soft, so they're easy to smash when you're trying to get them off of the very thorny branches, which isn't a problem if you just want to make juice or jam out of them, which I also did, by the way. I made probably 5 jars of sea buckthorn jam, which we will really enjoy this winter. I love stirring a teaspoon or so into my yogurt in the morning, and it's an easy way to get a lot of nutrients into the kids. But the majority of my sea buckthorn berries will be used for body and skin care, and for that I need the whole berries. I will dry the berries out on super low heat to preserve all of their nutrients until they're totally dry, and then I will infuse the dried berries into my favorite oils. Here I am in my home studio making a sea buckthorn infused jojoba oil. I have my reasons for using the whole berries rather than buying commercial sea buckthorn oil, which is extracted just from the seeds. First of all, I think this is how nature intended us to use them. And secondly, we get access to a much wider range of benefits and nutrients when we use the whole berry. Not to mention how much kinder it is to the planet than any industrial process. Making your own infused oils is definitely something that you can do yourself at home. I have written a blog post about this, which I will link in the description box below, called How to Make Your Own Infused Oils. And really, you can take anything from your environment, whether it's just lavender or chamomile, or if you have access to things like rosehips or sea buckthorn berries, whatever it is can be infused into oil and then used in all kinds of ways. So this will sit here for about 6 to 8 weeks. I will shake it gently every day until it's ready to be strained out. And then I will have my sea buckthorn infused jojoba oil. I will combine it with another one of my favorite skincare oils, which is tamanu, at a ratio of about 4 to 1. That's 4 parts sea buckthorn infused jojoba oil, 1 part tamanu oil. That's all there is to this very reparative skin oil. Its magic is in its simplicity, really, and though it technically is a very simple formula, a lot of things happened in order to get us here. The story goes all the way back to the outermost shores of Sweden, to this hardy plant we call sea buckthorn, or havtorn in Swedish, and its story goes all the way back to the last ice age.
You're such a fragile thing, I know. And with the winter comes the ice, the snow. But I'm here to hold.
You gonna go first?
And oh my love, the seasons come and they go, but I hold